All right, French pass, but France nowhere to be seen as we've got Mongols versus Russ. And it's going to be a fun one. We got BeastyQT, former StarCraft player, very highly skilled individual, currently sitting 51st on the leaderboards, and his opponent, well, he might be a Twitch meme, but his gameplay is definitely not a meme itself. It is, of course, KEKW, who we have discovered is a Smurf account in MarineLords, and his other Smurf account, I think, has gone back to being called MarineLorD. But the impressive part about this lad is that he's got 2 of the top 10 spots right now, 7th and 2nd. Only Lek is ahead of him in 1st at this point. And I mean, that's impressive, right? So MarineLorD, I've been told he has some experience with AoE 2 Pro. Like, he competed a little bit in 2020, as far as I can find. But obviously, his history has been in StarCraft. That's kind of been the main moolah maker for him. So it's really cool to see him just doubling down and investing so much of his time into Age of Empires 4. Maybe looking to just fully switch over from StarCraft, possibly. I mean, he is a fairly highly ranked individual. I'd say he's in the top, I want to say, like, definitely top 50 overall in StarCraft active players right now. Maybe even top 30. So for him to be considering this switch is a pretty cool thing. And I always love to see these new competing players because I would say, like, out of the kind of new Age of Empires introductors, like, he's kind of the standout one, right? Like, we can talk about the fact that he had a little bit of an AoE 2 career. We can talk about the fact that he came from a different RTS. But in terms of in the Age of Empires, like, in terms of trying to boom in now, right? It's not your Vipers or your Doubts or these players who've been playing Age of Empires for years and years on end. It's a new generation of players. It's young blood, right? Because I believe MarineLorD, is he even 20? I can't remember if he's 19. He's very young, if I recall correctly. And before I'm wrong on that one. 1995. Okay. He's very young if you're in your 30s, guys. He's 26. I don't know why I thought he's a little bit younger than that. But still, it's pretty cool to just see this kind of transitioning coming out. We've seen plenty of younger players who are now trying to get involved and are posting themselves quite well in the early leaderboards. It's just going to be interesting to see how the tournament formats start to evolve and how they can start to get that experience, you know, whether on LAN or online against some of the best in the game. But let's focus on this game, because I think this one's going to deliver well. I think Rus versus Mongols, there's a lot of ebb and flow to this type of matchup. There's a potential aggression that Mongols can get out first, but then, of course, there's the pivot backs when you talk about reaching your own horse archers as the Rus, because you can assist it with things like Springolds. There's also Night Rush potential out of Rus. I don't expect to see that necessarily, and the reason I don't expect to see a Night Rush from a Rus player is because currently Knights are bugged in that if you build early Knights and then tech up and upgrade them, all of the in-the-field Knights will not get the buffs. They'll still be basically early Knights stat-wise. However, future ones will, of course, be correctly upgraded. So I think that's actually been a big deterrent to people going for those early Knight rushes. I believe that bug does also affect France. But, of course, the difference for France is you still have value via Chivalry, right, which does get applied. And I think that's kind of one of the big differences as to why we don't really see Rus players engage with Knights in the Second Age. Now, something that was going on while we were talking about this was the bountying, as I like to call it. If you look, BC, he actually went to multiple scouts here. We've talked about how important this is to do before, and it's also very easy when you're playing the Mongols because you go into this early stable opening and you can start spamming out scouts. The whole concept is for him to not only go across the map and just gather more sheep to keep away from a civ that has gathering rate increases, but also to stop him reach those gathering rate increases via the sheep and the deer. And that's why you saw him sniping these out. Because right now, if you look across at MarineLorD, he didn't hit the second bounty before having to tech up. Usually you want to get that 250 mark. Usually you can quite comfortably do so, especially on a map like French Pass. It feels like it's fairly feasible, but you do have to sneak in on your opponent's deer line. And one thing I will say about this generation is this generation was fair in that regards. If you look at it, both sides had their deer spawns close together. So it wasn't like someone got really screwed over, and as a result, the Rus player got an advantage or disadvantage. Definitely looking for the economy advantage, though. Going for the Golden Gate, we see this quite often. I don't mind it in this situation. Like, while you can be harassed by a Mongol player early on, I think like a wooden fortress and a few palisades can be enough to deter. And the cool thing about going in this type of area when you get this spawn with the tree lines is you can easily cover these choke points with just a wooden fortress, right? And this will allow them to eco boom. And that's the important part, right? You have that diversification. You can either sell surplus wood, go into more gold. If you want to try something like that Night Early Rush we said we don't see too often. You can also invest it into stone by selling your gold so that you can get a quick TC. Right now, building the stable suggests he might be thinking about gold, though, and thinking about a potential early Night Rush. Something we said we don't see often. But when you see you've beaten your opponent, the Mongol player, to the Second Age, I can understand the temptation, actually, that's going to be there for MarineLorD. So cool idea. We'll see if he actually invests fully into it. And the other very interesting thing to talk about here, which we didn't even highlight yet, is that we're not going to see the deer stone, which surprises me greatly. Now, French Pass is the potential type of map where you can choose to do what he's doing here as the Mongol, which is going for the silver tree to build those caravan routes and get crap tons of trade. I just feel in 1v1s, it's very hard to justify over the deer stone, right? The deer stone gives you so much flexibility defending as well as going aggressive. And now the problem you potentially have is if, say, MarineLorD goes on the offensive in feudal, right, and comes to your base, your mobility in terms of defending it won't be there because you do not have the deer stone. So we'll see if he does get punished for that, because meanwhile, when you look, MarineLorD, he is starting to build those knights we talked about. So he is interested in the investment. I don't know how many he's going to go for. Maybe 4, I'd say, is kind of the cap, and then you focus on your economy. But the whole idea here, right, is you're playing against Mongols. Mongols, whether they play loose or tight, they kind of struggle in a lot of ways to defend their economy. And I don't know if he scouted out. It didn't look like he got deep enough to scout what was happening, which is, by the way, big props to Beasty, cutting him off before he could get in there and see that there was going to be caravan routes coming up soon. But eventually, MarineLorD will get that info, and this move into Knights will be even more valuable. In the meantime, Wooden Fortress does go down. So MarineLorD now getting that extra 20% drop off from his villies to the lumber camps, as well as having the defenses here. Didn't build it a little bit further forward, so it's not able to necessarily protect against the Hun Khan. But right now, it seems like he's not that worried about the gold, which is confusing to me a bit here. I wonder if he's planning to just try and get 2 knights out and sneak them in when Beasty's not looking. Because then you almost insta-kill the Khan, right? Like, you take over half his HP with 2 strikes with the Lancers initially. I mean, it's not that this is going to kill your buildings quickly, right? It's simply more the case that it's stopping you from gathering gold. But he seems content at the moment. Lots of people working on food. Keep in mind, the one thing he can do, because he has got the Golden Gate, is he can actually get his gold via just selling the surplus food. The only problem here is, of course, this is a finite amount of carcasses, right? The sheep are going to dry up eventually, so definitely want to start finding food elsewhere, and that's why he's done this. He went for the professional scouts. He's going to be able to gather these corpses and bring them in. And I don't know if his opponent has done this. Yes, he has. Okay. I like this. I think you have to engage with this now. Even if Roos isn't in the game, professional scouts pays for itself with just, like, I don't know, free carcasses? I'd say free carcasses actually pays for itself and less, but like you feel like it's a comfortable, worthwhile investment of free carcasses, right? To not upgrade something else, to also like, you know, use those early resources that way. Free carcasses is a good solid number, because remember, these are 350 each. And the important part is that BC, he's stationed these lancers here, so his opponent can't even steal them. He's now moving in with his knights, and of course, I don't think Beasty snatched away any deer, I want to say. I might be wrong, though. It is always possible that Beasty ran all the way across map here and stole some of these deer. I just didn't have eyes on it if that was the case. But nice moving in now. So they'll cycle past the Lancers. They don't care about that. They're looking for the economy, right? You just want to snipe out. If you stop off to deal with the early horsemen, you will definitely kill them. But you'll just take damage, right? Permanent damage. This way, you're sniping out damage to the economy. And that's what you want, the value out of the knights, especially if you can get those charges in. They'll cycle in onto the villages. One will be sniped out. He should see the caravans now. And Barracks is going down, but he's sniping out the villagers producing on it. And they're going to have to cancel it. They're going to have to back away. There's no way they can deal with this right now. So, that's how many villages? Is that 5? I want to say 5 villagers lost so far. Not to mention one of the scouts that was gathering your food is sniped out as well. So, you've still got these deers sitting here not being taken. And, yep, there we go. I was about to say, I love this. I wanted to see this straight away. When you see this in Beasty's base that he still doesn't collect these carcasses, what is the instant move coming out from MarineLorD? Is to get his scouts, click them across map, and steal these corpses away. Knowing that his knights are still strong enough to scare away Beasty, who Beasty right now still does not have a Rax. And is still just being forced off of his food lines constantly. Cycle in, not able to find a kill as they go for different villager targets. And he will be forced to engage, because remember the horsemen are quicker than knights. He really doesn't want to have to, though. Scouts are almost here. And he's going to have to protect them somewhat. The spearmen are now chasing out, trying to look for the wraparound. The scouts trying to move in, but the corpses being picked up by Beasty. However, there are too many here for him to get all of them. He'll try and snipe out the scouts who picked up the carcass. And the knights, in the meantime, take that opportunity to go straight into the villages. So a lot of anarchy here, and Beasty trying to make some order of it, but he's going to have to choose. He has to go for the knights instead. He cannot deal with the scouts, so the scouts will make off with over 1,000 food. And even once you lose these knights, now, as MarineLorD, that's a worthwhile exchange. Man, I love the way that people are prioritizing this. Like I said, it's not just that you're going for these professional scouts. It's the way that people yoink corpses away, right? Whether it's running across your opponent's side of the map or, as we saw the other day, just running into where he's been dropping off the carcasses and taking them away, which, by the way, is a very good justification for why you should always drop your corpses off at the TC, where there's protection against the scout coming in stealing. But just really well played on the front of MarineLorD there in general. Even starts adding horsemen in because, of course, he doesn't have great gold surplus to try and just keep that harassment up early. And now look at this. The whole while, while we're talking about this, he was teching up. So he's going to reach the castle age. Meanwhile, looking across the other side, the step readout has only just started being constructed. Now, this is a big deal if you can get your hands on it. But the thing to kind of highlight in this matchup is you don't often see Mongols go for their religious structure, which means that MarineLorD should actually get 4, possibly 5 of these relics quite easily because he's already starting to produce these warrior monks. He already has scouted out information on, I think, all of them at this stage. Yeah, is that one seen? Yes, he sees every single one of these relics. So he should get the vast majority, if not all 5 of them. And in the meantime, although heavily injured, he's going to keep the boys going around the back. And you can see there is a move across. Remember, they've got the YAM movement speed, so they will be able to chase down these horsemen moving at a ridiculous 2.52 movement speed due to the maneuvering of the Khan as well. Actually, no, it was just the Khan. Yeah, I thought you had an outpost down. If you can snipe out 1 or 2 of these caravans, you're happy. I just don't know if you can kill them quicker than you're going to get killed. Almost, but not quite. He's just going to waste more time. Meanwhile, look what he's doing on the north. I just love this move, right? He understands that his opponent, he's got to have the caravan route somewhere along the back here, so he's going to try and see if he opts to try and go for the northern trade route, or if he's going for a longer one, prolonged along here that he can expose at a different point. I do love the way that Beasty's balancing this. He's not being ultra greedy, by the way. He hasn't gone for the cross-map route, which would be very hard to defend as the Mongols until you've got a full infrastructure of these outposts up. So he's kind of playing for the smaller gains, knowing that it will very quickly return its value anyway. It's only 50 gold drop-off, but when you're talking about how many are working this already, and it's like every minute you're getting 400 gold or so. In fact, if we look at the income per minute, up at 551, and he only has a few people working on the step readout, so most of this is just coming from the caravan route. And this is something that MarineLorD will have to address soon. So relic count so far, he's banked 1. He's got an AFK warrior monk here, really should get these boys on the move. Has he got a second one coming out here? No. So yeah, there we go. He's noticed that he started to send that one out. He's got another warrior monk coming out. I think these are the only warrior monks he has so far because most of his gold has just been going straight into producing knights, just trying to reach that critical mass as quickly as possible. Hasn't upgraded them to veteran. And that's worrying, guys. Because remember, we talked about that bugged interaction where when you upgrade them, the in-the-field early knights will not turn into veteran knights. So he is missing out on some extra damage in these fights. I believe also health gets increased. So I think he's missing an extra 20 health on each of these. And with these 9 numbers, scares away the spearmen. There are more wrapping around. They need to be careful. Remember, you're playing against Mongols. They do have that maneuver ability with the Khan. But the important part is he's put himself in the right location, right? So the spearmen have to get in position, and they're getting in the wrong position. The caravans are going to be exposed. More spearmen are coming in, but MarineLorD with a superior number of knights right now. And he could look to engage. He's going to do exactly that, in fact. These spears are just outnumbered. They need to get the others in here. He's going to try and wrap now. But it's too late. He's already lost his spearman line. And the caravans are arriving, and that's when MarineLorD will turn around. This is what he was waiting for. So going deep, he'll cut them off, starts to chop them down one by one. Lots of damage, but failing to connect with the killing blow on any of these so far, in fact. And this is the power, right? The power of the movement. Just so quickly, due to the Khan, are they able to just stay on top of these knights with the spearman moving at 1.44 movement speed per tile. And there you can already see the upgrades coming in, so just looking to get the arrow slits probably eventually into the springles. So the opportunity for MarineLorD to do this, the window is closing quick. And it's rough as well when you actually map it out, folks. He's invested over 1,000 gold in this move, and it's not really getting the value he's looking for. And now keep in mind his opponent, he does have veteran spearmen, so no longer just the hardened, they're up to veteran spearmen at this stage. These early knights. Has he got blacksmith? Yeah, so he did get these upgrades. Still no knight upgrade yet. It's problematic. He has free stables now. I feel like he needs to get this upgrade. He's missing out on a lot more effective HP and damage output in these fights. So now that he's seen these reactions, like, what's the pivot move if you are MarineLorD? You're still playing off one TC. Oh, no, there we go. I was about to say, as long as you're not playing off one TC, it's not too bad. So he gets the second TC down. He's already expanding a wood line, and this is where he can eke out an advantage. Because remember, all this is played on by one TC from Beasty. He's playing a very tight formation as the Mongols right now, just focusing on producing more traders and protecting that caravan line, which means he hasn't been able to expand to a secondary eco via an additional TC. Yeah, immediately in the archery ranges. So this is the transition that we wanted to see. Right now, you just don't have any way of sieging through these outposts, right? You needed to add something else into the composition, and it's going to be ranged units. Now, most likely, he just goes mobile army with the horse archers, but I actually wouldn't be against just seeing archers as well, so you have someone to build siege weapons on the front line. That being said, like I said, I am expecting horse archers. I think they're just too tasty of a concept to pass up when you're playing as the Rus. Not to mention that they scale incredibly well, and even if you have your opponent react with Magadai in the meantime, keep in mind once you get another tech up, you'll actually be pretty superior to the Magadai, because while they can fire on the move, when you get to the impage, you get access to that additional range with the amount of precision. Up to 16 Knights in the Warrior Monk now. Now, the Warrior Monk will make a big difference here, folks. Now, crossbowmen are starting to be produced, but the Stealth Forest, they're going to get ambushed here. They'll get a few shots out, but Spearman already down, and he's going to lose these troops. And remember, the Saint's Blessing is going to be big if we get a big engagement here, because that buff on all these Knights is going to be pretty substantial, actually. The additional armor alone is quite a juicy thing to have. So he sees all the spears and will back up. And this should be where he waits until he's got more archers. Trip TC now, so MarineLorD looking to just expand to the center. Really important for him, by the way. If you look at the two compositions right now, he's the one who's munching through gold before these Knights. So he needs a way of sustaining that. Really well identified by the Frenchman. And now horse archers start to trickle in. Nice microing here. Just getting those two shots out. Doesn't want to get engaged here. Is going to reveal his TC with that push out from Beasty. But Beasty has no real way of assaulting that TC yet. And that's a mistake with the Warrior Monk. So he gets sniped out before he even gets an attack out. He has got one more here, so you can still get the Saint's Blessing. But the Spearmen are trickling alongside the crossbowmen. So if he wants to make a move, he's going to have to make it very soon. And more horse archers getting sniped out. These horse archers don't fare that well against the crossbowmen, keep in mind. I mean, range-wise, slightly better with 0.5 extra tiles on the crossbowmen. And although they aren't getting that additional damage against the horsemen compared to the Knights, they are still going to rinse through you fairly fast when you try to retreat. So at this point, MarineLorD, he just kind of needs to get that critical number. I'd say around 10 horse archers should be good enough. Only got 6 right now. But with this many Knights, it could still work out, especially if he kites this correctly. Just trying to snipe out the Khan if he can. If he could get him, it'd be great. The crossbowmen are exposed, though. Big mistake from Beasty. And the cycling gets a few of them. Lance is put to good use. Horse archers looking to back off now. And a lot of these spearmen are now just getting a little bit too low for comfort. Meanwhile, MarineLorD continue to trickle in troops. More horse archers coming. If he has to fully cycle out the Knights and just go full horse archers, he's still content with this. The problem is he's being forced to probe each time, which means he's never actually reaching that number we talked about. Meanwhile, on the north side, we see the sacred sites have been both captured by MarineLorD, just trying to pressure Beasty into making mistakes now. And you don't want to be forced to just kind of stalemate if you're Beasty, because remember, like, it is slow, but these monks will heal up these troops. And we talked about that critical mass of horse archers that you are looking for if you're MarineLorD. And now, I like this play. Get the forward outpost. It's not as effective as England's, but it is going to be handy in these engagements. Especially if you transition into cavalry anytime soon. But it looks like he's fully committed on the archer front. Just crossbowman spam coming out from 4. He is now going into the shaman, so looking to capture these himself. Remember, all the relics have already been gathered up. You can see 5 there. You don't need to do this, I don't think so. I may be wrong, though. I'm pretty sure the Abbey of Trinity can hold more than 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I'm pretty sure it has the limitation of a monastery, which is 20. I think Regnitz Cathedral is the only one limited. I may be wrong on that, though. The thing is, Regnitz Cathedral has something in its tooltip. This doesn't. I'm pretty sure I've seen people having more than 3 in Abbey of Trinity. He does need another monastery for later anyway, like, because, you know, if he wants to get his hands on additional monks at an increased rate to keep that front line going. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on this. It keeps going down. But not fast enough. Only a few workers working on this, but it's kind of a distraction as the wraparound comes in, trying to get on that crossbow line, but there's so many here. MarineLorD's going to have to back up. I don't think this keep's going to be complete. He has built into the siege workshops now, so this could be saving grace. He's going for a Mangonel and multiple Springolds, and this is going to force Beasty back. He cannot engage with this final villager. Just little Timmy is working his own here, trying to build up this giant fort. We'll be joined by additional workforce. And while the outposts are down, he needs to prevent this keep from being complete, but it's just so hard with the Springolds now coming out. He needs to do it now or never. And he did start switching to man-at-arms. Remember, these man-at-arms won't last long against the Knights and the Springolds. So once again, MarineLorD just playing him like a fiddle. Halfway complete on the keep, and it's going to be planted down. There's no way he stops this now. Battering ram's being built. Problem is your opponent already has Springolds out, and he has a Mangonel. And I don't think the Mangonel's been scouted out yet by Beasty. In fact, if we look at the vision game, he's going to see it now, but it might be too late. MarineLorD, he's not firing the Mangonel yet. This is such a missed opportunity. So the crossbow will back up. They're still going to take heavy casualties, but he didn't manage to get a huge cluster bomb onto them. That being said, the Knights have now engaged the range line. Man-at-arms are not holding them back, and the Horse Archers are going to town the crossbowmen. And the Springolds, in the meantime, are focusing on dealing with the battering rams. And barely any troops left for Beasty, so despite not using the Mangonel, value still found, and he'll still get a salvo out in the end to try and get this Mangonel down, this battering ram down quicker. But Beasty, considering the way that was microed by MarineLorD, should be counting his lucky stripes. His entire army is not wiped at this stage. Now with the Trebs, able to start getting through these outposts. I don't mind if Treb being picked up in this situation, actually. Keep in mind, the only static defense you can have as the Mongols is going to be these outposts, and they are the type of Civ that will build a lot of outposts, right? Especially if they're trying to protect their roots. So overall, we'll just get their value in that regard. I'll quickly get through these outposts that, remember, will be upgraded to the mass. Just, you know, pimp my ride, Springolds, arrow slits, all the rims. So, you know, you don't want to just run in with units and just maybe lose a few knights in the process. It's much better to be quicker with the Trebs. And he'll be able to find these villagers trying to retreat. Well, they are somewhat speedy with a 1.49 movement speed. So we'll get them away in the end. A ridiculous movement speed. I'm pretty sure villagers shouldn't move that fast, folks. But they will all die in the end. And the Knights just moving in to gather that info. So Blacksmith has been getting better tech. He's going towards the siege engineering improved. Really important thing here. He'll save a lot of money on not having to build siege workshops, and will then start matching the Springolds. But it's important that he does it quickly before Imp Age comes across the horizon for MarineLorD, because MarineLorD is closing in on it. And remember, when you play Rus, you can build a landmark that gives you additional range on your Springolds, which means that no other Civ can actually match your range on your siege weapon. And that's when it becomes very hard, even with this improvised engineering, right? Even with these improvised Springolds that you're building in the field as the Mongols. I will say Beasty definitely has the wood to switch over to it. He just needs to sort that gold right now. Nobody working on the gold line. He's going to start to switch that over. I like seeing this. He never moved the step redoubt up to the center. It would have been very gambly to do so. And in this situation, like, he doesn't really have the economy to spread out, right? Like, if we look at the economy, it says 78 for BC, but keep in mind most of this is in caravans. So we've got, like, almost 20 caravans going on here. So 78, then you compare to MarineLorD, already up to 100, right? So MarineLorD is at a stage where he can more or less sustain output. And when he hits Imp Age, you're probably just going to see him invest at least 80 into a military force. He might go up to 120, I'd expect, overall. But that should be where he stops on the eco front. And then he actually has enough if he controls his center area in these gold veins, right? Especially when you consider he's also getting the tithes from the relics to just push out knights like there's no tomorrow. Horse Archers did go in on the caravan, so kind of got their value. I think they sniped. Whoa, okay, they sniped more than I thought. I was going to say 3 or 4. I think they got 7. That's a big hit into the eco of Beasty. Remember, we said he still only has this one TC play, right? He never went for a secondary. And while he has expanded this line even further, this caravan further, it means that any damage done is felt because, well, it takes even longer for them to return this gold and thus return their investment. Now he's down to 10 of them, so I expect him to start spamming out the traders again. But this is damage to his eco that should slow down a tech up from him. Meanwhile, his opponent is going to be very comfortably in the Imp Age at this rate, as the high armory is almost complete. Meanwhile, in the north, Warren Monk just trying to show why he is the superior priest in this situation. Might get him, but the Lancer should take him out afterwards. However, there are Knights cycling in, so they're going to decap the Sacred Site. And I think if he retreats towards the Knight line, yeah, the Warrior Monk won't even die. So once again, this is important, not just because it forces pressure on your opponent to do something, but it's the Gold Treaker, right? He's getting 100 a minute. He's going to get 100 a minute for this one as well. He's already getting 500 due to the relics. And also, if he wants, he can get Tithe Barns now. I don't think he's going to. I feel like a lot of players don't, just because at this stage, gold becomes more valuable. And investing 500 gold to get that means you need quite a lot of extra minutes. I feel like, you need an extra 10 minutes to be anticipating the game to really feel like you got value out of the food, wood, and stone that you produce. Staggered formation. This is bad news, by the way. So you never really want to be forced into staggered formation against the Springalds. And that's what I love about the composition of MarineLorD. Because remember, it means you're coming in slow, which means there's more salvos coming out from these Springald units, right? And speaking of that, the salvos are coming out, and they're definitely more effective. And this is before we even see... Did we get the Springald? No. So Banded Arms isn't even there yet. Forces are going to engage. Treb's just trying to take out the keep. Decent damage done. And outnumbered here, MarineLorD will have to back up for the moment. Looks like definitely the better side going the way of Beasty. Where are all the troops right now, actually? The Knights are in the back still, so they're sniping out the eco, but they've got a problem with the front line now. And the Springals, they're trying to snipe down the components of the BC Siege Army here, and they've almost got them all, but now they're going to be exposed to the man-at-arms. The veteran horsemen are still trickling in from MarineLorD, trying to slow this down to buy space so that he can fire off these very potent Springals against the men-at-arms, but them and the Spearmen are just in deep. BC's not going to let up. He wants to get rid of all of these, and they will have to abandon the keep. So while you have damaged the economy on the back line, which, by the way, Beasty has still not noticed, as MarineLorD has continued to snipe these out, he'll finally take note of it. And yes, he gets this Fort Assault underway, but it does mean that his eco is hurting for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And will continue to do so as we just see more of these getting sniped out. But really important move out there. Beasty, he needed to move towards the center. MarineLorD, he definitely had too much of this map under his control. And you didn't want him getting onto these gold veins. That's the one good piece of info, even with all that delayed access by Beasty, is that MarineLorD never actually went and gathered from the other gold veins, right? He barely gathered on this one, only 800. So that's quite worrying when you consider MarineLorD's situation, right? He's just spamming out the horsemen now because he can no longer afford these knights because he invested so much into the Springald army that mostly got disintegrated. He's starting to slowly rebuild it because that's his priority, right? He needs to get them out. He's definitely getting them cheaper as well. That's something to consider here, courtesy of the high armory. So he needs to reach that critical mass again. But he needs to do it quick because these Trebs are going to start to apply pressure to your production lines. As you can already see, the siege workshops are being targeted. Now horsemen up against the crossbowmen. They're not a bad solution. It's a cost-effective solution. It's not going to necessarily obliterate the crossbowmen, but it gets on top of them fast. It has a decent amount of health. So this should repel Beasty, considering he has no spearmen at the moment, and has switched mostly over to man-at-arms at this stage, which are good against the horsemen. Remember, folks, the horsemen are terrible in melee, full stop. Anything that engages them in melee will beat their asses. You keep going down, trying to reapply that pressure. And that knight, yeah, the knights are still here. There's only 2 of them, though, and they should be scouted out, so they should be sniped down. Beasty did keep a small guard here. But how are the caravans looking? They're mostly been rebuilt at this stage. Yeah, 11. So we've got, I believe it's 18, I say? Sorry, no, 17. Which makes up most of his gold still, I think. Yeah, he's only got a small amount of people on gold over here. And finally, he is going to get his tech up, and he is going for the white stupa. And remember, this is the one that gives you stone. It just functions as an Uber, basically. Meanwhile, in the center, now into the gold veins, and this is where things will start to pivot again. Because now MarineLorD, look at the gold access he's suddenly got onto, right? 14 people working here, income per minute, boost straight up to close to what Beasty's doing. And this is where he can start to get back into the knights if he chooses, or even better, and I love this, the Streltsy. I feel like we just don't see it often enough in games from the Roost that go up to the 30-minute mark. Usually they're still into horse archers, but Streltsy are actually amazing units, defensively and aggressively. They move slow, yes, they don't have the best range, but they hold their own against melee units effectively because they carry a giant goddamn axe, and the longer they're stationary, the more effective they become with an increase in damage and attack speed. Not to mention it's 150 health on a range unit. I just want you guys to process that. These crossbowmen have 80 health. I am aware, yes, these are, although they're in Tech 3, these are, early stage units, but 80 health compared to 150. And these cost 80 food, 40 gold. Let's go check the comparative. Wait, there we are. 90 food, 90 gold. So just a little bit more pricey, but for double the health, I'd say quite the bargain. And Treb's on the move out again. They're going to get sniped instantly. I don't even know if they get a shot off before being sniped. No. That one to be brought down. If the Trebs get hit, they do decent damage. The Skrill's already backing away. And do you engage? This small group of Streltsy could delay you quite a while. Yeah. The moment you turn around, this is the problem. You'll be sniped. You can't. Whoa, whoa. You might have elite in the name, but it's not elite in the game like that. So your Khan's just gone. So you're not going to have that armor buff that you would absolutely love to have in the next engagement. Wrap around from the Horsemen, just once again looking for the caravans. And they will find the traders. So there you go. Much more effective solution, by the way, I want to say, than the Knights. I think these are better just because they move faster and they're less pricey when you lose them. And yeah, he just looks for the eco lines as well. Going to force them all to garrison, so just delaying them. A lot more in the back here. Even a few Knights in the mix are starting to snipe out these outposts. Remember, this is all 1 TC, so any damage done here is actually excruciating for Beasty at this stage of the game. He's already capped on the gold front as well. He's invested everything he can, and he's on the back foot. So I'm getting a little bit concerned what Beasty can do here. Because the only thing he can really produce is cannon fodder. And there you see it. He switches up into veteran spin because he can't really do anything else. All the while, these Springalds, you know, not the quickest siege unit, but in this number, they damn sure are. Like, I mean, with the increased attack speed, the increased range, it won't take long to get through the military infrastructure that BC has. And remember, he can't replace this. His wood lines are pretty much gone, and it's hard for him to expand elsewhere because of how much open ground there is that his cavalry can exploit. Yep, just targeting out another one of these over on the side. Straight into disrupt the caravans again. He's going to lose these units, but he might get 1 or 2 of the caravans, so it's kind of worth it. Remember, these traders, they return a decent amount of gold. Each one of these is worth 100 plus. And remember, the sacred sites are still ticking, by the way, folks. So BC needs a solution soon. Instead, he's not having a solution. Instead, he's just being wiped. Beasty, not able to deal with these Streltsy, now up to 15 of them. The only answer he really has is the Spirals, but remember, if they get engaged, the advantage will be with MarineLorD, who has the superior range over these Springals, despite the fact that there are 15 of them once they're all constructed, compared to the 8, I believe it was, on the Roost side. Once again, Horseman in. Honestly, I just love the way MarineLorD's playing this. He's exploiting the fact that Beasty's incredibly static. Right, Beasty barely ever invested in the cavalry, so he's not been able to keep up with this pace. And this is why Horsemen are so popular right now. This is how a lot of these late game situations end, is if our opponent doesn't engage with the mobility of Horsemen, they actually come back into their own as quite the formidable unit once you reach elite status. And you're seeing it on the villager lines right now. He's getting so much value out of these. Several of these villagers have been sniped out. You'll eventually get rid of them, but even after you get rid of them, not only has he got an additional amount of villagers in comparison to the Horsemen that came here, it's the fact that now you have more soldiers out of position, not ready on the front line, where you're continuing to lose troops and buildings. So Springal trade looks like it actually went quite well for Beasty. The problem is he still has no answer to this keep. And now with all the defenses just being researched, including the cannon placement, you're going to have problems here. He can't wrap to the north either, because trying to go there is going to be obvious. He scouts out these palisade walls, right? Yes, he can get through them, but it delays you long enough that your opponent is able to react. And MarineLorD is in a position he can react anywhere he wants. He definitely has the income to support a secondary force to react with, right? Like, how many people has he got on gold? 32 at this stage? Compare that to our good friend Beasty, who has nobody on gold because there's none left here. The step readout isn't even moving over here because he's so in on the food and the wood, mainly the wood in this situation, that he needs to actually just keep everyone on the wood lines where he can. So Trebs going to work. Looking to snipe out this keep. Mangonel will be sniped out by the Springalds. Second Mangonel trying to move in. Can I get close enough? It's going to get shot off. No! Just before it could, but this cost so many Springalds. Beasty barely got any left. And now the Streltsy open fire. They start to blitz through the front line. And while the crossbowmen do have a slight range advantage here, they're going to have to back up because they've already lost their front line. And Streltsy will move in. Slow but methodical is the name of the game with these units. And once they're in range, they will blast straight through you. Backs up a little bit, hesitant to engage with the Springals being there. And there are now bombard cannons for Beasty. But it's do or die in this moment. And the problem is we have to question, what has MarineLorD got coming up? Because he's got plenty of resources. Yeah, it's going to be a Horseman army. So once the front line is gone, big issues for Beasty here. If he gets baited into a fight, this could just end right here. So keep continue to siege down these unit-producing buildings. Bombard slowly being sniped. Keep has fallen though. Springolds getting through their opponent's mirror match up there. And now the Streltsy moving again. Holding their ground. Melee will retreat. There's barely any melee on the front line anyway. The Bombard sniping out Springolds on the side. And those Springolds, they're split targets. They'll get rid of the Springald themselves, but they need to back away from Beasty at this stage. These Bombards are becoming a nuisance, but remember the Horseman, he's patiently waiting. He's only showed 2 of them, but ready. There's a big mount back here. Are they going to move now? MarineLorD? Going forward with it. I believe he's replaced. Yeah, the Springolds are just trickling out much quicker for him right now. And they chase in. They find them. The Streltsy are in range of all the ranged units, and the Horsemen are staying on top of the crossbowmen, and the Bombards are exposed, and Beasty! That was his one hurrah! And without them, I don't know what you can do anymore. There's really nothing here to help you. The traction trebuchets do diddly squat, the crossbowmen are all but dead, and the cavalry power, the Rus have overwhelmed the Mongols here, as MarineLorD will take this game. There's just nothing left in the chamber for Beasty to throw at the overwhelming force of Horsemen coming his way.